Low Vision Focus at Hadley presents Using the NLS Advanced Digital Talking Book Player. Hello, my name is Douglas Walker, and I am the Access Technology Instruction Specialist here at Hadley. Today we are going to be looking at the NLS Advanced Digital Talking Book Player. This is such a fantastic device for just so many reasons. First of all, it is just really easy to use. All of our buttons are laid out in a way that makes them so easy to locate. It has a built-in bookshelf that gives us the ability to easily switch between all of our favorite books. And we have daisy navigation. Now, daisy navigation simply means that we have the ability to navigate through our books, and we are able to quickly navigate by different elements such as chapters, sections, and even pages. And that is pretty great. It really is easy to see why the NLS Digital Player has been so well received. All right, today we're going to talk about or totally explore our NLS Digital Player, and we will begin by first exploring the functions of all of our buttons. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, we have our NLS Advanced Digital Talking Book Player right here in front of us. And now we have it positioned on our desktop or tabletop with a handle facing closest to us. Just below our handle and above or below our Play Stop button here, we have our cartridge opening. Now, we currently don't have a book cartridge inserted into our player. However, later we'll come back here and insert our cartridge. Okay, on the right-hand side of our NLS player, we have a small round hole, and this is our port for connecting our headphones. And in this case, we're plugged into a mixer now so we can hear our device later. And just behind or above our headphone connection here, we have a USB port. Now, our USB port will come with a little plastic plug in it, and we can just pull out that plug if we need to gain access to this USB port over here. Okay, our USB port gives us the ability to play digital books directly from our USB digital driver storage device. Now, some people refer to these as flash drives or thumb drives. Our USB port also gives us the ability to connect a foot switch or a switch controller to control our device. This is a great option that for people that might have some type of motor issue that prevents them from being able to manipulate or press these buttons. Okay, on the very back of our device, we'll find our power cord, and it's really handy that we have an open compartment here that gives us the ability to stow away our cord if we like. All right, on the left-hand side of our device, we won't find any buttons or connections here. So that pretty much covers all the sides of our device. Okay, so how about we get to know all of our buttons? Now, the top of our player's surface can be quite intimidating at first glance because there are quite a few buttons here. However, our buttons are laid out in two distinct or two separate areas. And to separate these areas, we're given a raised separation line that runs horizontally across the center of our player here. Now, our most commonly used buttons will be the ones that are nearest to us or in front of this separation line here. So how about we begin first with these buttons? Okay, near the front of our player and to the left, we'll find a red round button here, and it has a raised line around it, and a braille letter P just to the right of it here. And this is our power button, and of course, it's used for turning our player on and off. Now, at the very front edge of our device and right in the center, we find our play stop button. We also have a letter P just above this button here. Now, some of our buttons are capable of performing two different functions, and if we simply just tap our play stop button, we will begin playing our book. And if you were to tap it again, our book or any other spoken announcements would be stopped or paused. Now, if we were to press and continue holding down this play stop button, we would hear a beep and we would enter our bookshelf. And this is how we would be able to find and move between all of the books on our cartridge. Okay, we aren't going to go into detail on this right now because we will actually be coming back here soon to see exactly how our bookshelf works. All right, so just to the left of this play stop button, we have our rewind button. It's shaped like a triangle that points to the left here, and it has a raised line on the left point of it there. It also have the Braille letter R right here just below it. Now, our rewind button is to help us move backwards through our book. And each time we tap it, we are moved backwards in 5-second increments through our book. Okay, if we're to press and hold down this rewind button, we would be moved backwards in larger increments back through our book here. And our player is going to announce exactly how far we're moving back through our book. Of course, if we were to keep holding it down, we would eventually be taken all the way back to the beginning of our book. All right, just to the right of our play stop button here is our fast forward button. Now, it looks exactly like our rewind button, only it is pointing to the right or in the opposite direction here. And it's going to have the Braille letter F here just below it. Now, this button is going to perform just like our rewind button, only it's going to be used to take us forward through our books. Okay, just to the right of our fast forward button, we'll find our volume up and volume down buttons. All right, these are kind of rounded triangles with raised edges on the top and the bottom of them there. And they have the Braille letter V just to the left of them there. Now, the lower button that points towards our handle is our volume down button. And you guessed it, each time we tap it, we will hear a beep and our volume is turned down one level. Okay, just above our volume down button is our volume up button, and we'll hear that same beep each time we press it, and our volume will be turned up or raised up one level. Now, one of my very favorite buttons is just above our play stop button here, and this is our sleep button. It's shaped like a crescent, and it has the Braille letter S just to the left of it there. All right, I love to relax by listening to a good book. However, sometimes I might find myself relaxing just a bit too much because I actually fall asleep. So this sleep timer button can be a huge help for this. Now, the first time we tap our sleep timer, we will hear our player announce sleep 15 minutes. This means that our player will stop playing our book after it's played for 15 minutes, and that is pretty great. Okay, we're also able to set it for a longer sleep time if we like, because each time we tap our sleep timer here, our sleep timer will increase by 15-minute increments, and we can increase our sleep timer up to 1 hour if we like. So if we do happen to fall asleep when listening to our book, we will only have to rewind just a bit to find out where we left off. All right, so that pretty much covers all of our most frequently used buttons here, and they're located, of course, below our horizontal separation line here. So let's take a look at some buttons that will help us to perform some of our device's more advanced features. Okay, if we move above our horizontal line, we will find a large raised circle, and this is our player's raised speaker. Now, just to the left of our speaker here, we'll find our tone up and our tone down buttons. All right, these look very similar to our volume buttons, only they're just a bit more pointed, and they have a braille letter T just to the right of them here. Now, these buttons act very much like a bass or a treble button, because if we tap our tone down button, we will increase how much bass is added to our book. And if we tap our up tone button here, we will increase our tone's treble. Okay, this can be a huge help if we might have difficulty hearing certain types of tone ranges. And it's something that we'll kind of need to play around a bit with to find out, exactly what works best for us. All right, so just to the right of our raised speaker here, and along the right side of our device, we have our speed up and our speed down buttons. Now, these are very similar to our tone up and tone down buttons. However, they don't have our raised lines along the edges, and just to the left of these buttons, we have our braille letter S. Okay, we can use our speed buttons to increase and decrease the speed of our reader's voice, of our voice here on our book. Okay, so if we press our speed up button, the speed of our book is going to increase. And of course, if we press our speed down button, is going to slow down or decrease the speed in which our book is being read. Okay, so our player will play a single beep and announce the word normal whenever we reach our player's normal speed. Now, it might take a bit of time to learn how to listen to books at a faster speed. However, it can really be a time saver if we would like to maybe quickly move through a book. All right, directly below our speed down button is our bookmark button. This button is a rectangular button with a raised vertical line on it, and just to the left of it, we will find a braille letter B there. Now, this is a really fantastic feature, especially if you've ever been listening to a book and thought that you would like to return to a particular spot or a position within your book. Well, all we need to do is just tap this button to place a digital bookmark in our books. So if you were listening to a cookbook and you might find a favorite recipe, or maybe another book is mentioned that you might want to read within a book, bookmarking is a great way to help us to return to that position in our book later on. Okay, now all of our bookmarks are going to be stored within our device's memory, or in our NLS player's memory. So even if we remove our cartridge with our books on it and then place them back in later on, and then we want to return to those bookmarks, our NLS player will remember all of our books, all of our bookmarks for all of our books. And that is really nice. Now, we'll talk about how to return to our bookmarks by using our navigation buttons in just a bit. But first, how about we check out our info button over here? Okay, just below our tone down button on the left-hand side of our device, we will find our info button. Now, our info button is diamond-shaped and has a raised dot in the center of it. And we'll find the braille letter I just to the right of it right there. All right, our info button can tell us a lot about our device or what's on our cartridge, because if we tap it, we'll be given our current reading position for our book. We'll be told how much battery charge we have remaining, or we can even be told if our device is currently plugged in. Right, another great feature that's built right into our info button is our NLS player's user guide. And if we just press and hold down our info button, our user's guide will open and we could just read right through it. So this will really be a place that you'll want to come back to later and get even more information on how to use your NLS player. Okay, so we've come to our last three buttons, and these are our navigation buttons that we mentioned earlier. Now, these three navigation buttons are just below our raised speaker here, and they're just above our horizontal raised separator line. All right, these three buttons from left to right here are our previous button, our menu button in the center, and to the right of that is our next button here. Now, these three navigation buttons really are a huge help, and they give us the ability to move by items such as chapters, sections, or sometimes we can even navigate by pages in our book. And as we mentioned earlier, we also have the ability to move by our bookmarks. Okay, the button in the center of these three buttons is our menu button, like we said, and this button is shaped like a rectangle and has a horizontal raised line on it. We also have a braille letter M just above it right there. Okay, we'll use our menu button to decide how we want to navigate through our book, and every time we tap it, we will be given a different type of navigation level. Now, sometimes our navigation levels are announced at the very beginning of the book we're listening to, and as we mentioned earlier, we can move by items such as chapters, maybe, sections. If we're listening to a cookbook, maybe we can move by recipes. We can move by list items, and we even have the ability to move by any digital bookmarks that we've set, or we can jump by phrase. Now, once we've pressed our menu button here and selected exactly how we want to move through our book, we can then use our previous button, that's just to the left of this menu button, to move to our previous item, or we're able to use our next button just to the right of the menu button to move to our next item or level that we selected. Now, this can be really helpful if we want to move maybe to our next or previous chapter, or once again, if we select bookmarks from this and then use this previous or next button, we can easily move through all of our bookmarks there. Now, this is something that might take a little bit of practice to master. However, it really can be a huge help for allowing us to quickly be able to navigate through our book. All right, so that pretty much covers all of our players' buttons. So how about we take a look at how to insert our book cartridge, and then we'll see how to move between books in our bookshelf. And last but not least, we will take a look at exactly how to use these navigation buttons to move all throughout our book here. All right, let's take a look how to insert our book cartridge. Now, our book cartridge is a flat rectangular device, and the top of our cartridge will have our print and our braille label on it. Okay, our cartridge is shaped so that it can only be inserted into our NLS player in the correct way, so no worries there. Okay, so we'll insert our cartridge into our player with our label facing up, and the end that doesn't have the finger hole will go into our player's cartridge slot. Now, the cartridge slot is just above our player's handle and just below our play stop button here. Okay, it's good to know that if our NLS player is turned on, as soon as we insert our cartridge, the number of books that we have on our cartridge will be announced to us, and the last book that we were playing will actually begin automatically playing. So how about we give this a try? All right, we'll first need to turn on our player, so we'll find our round power on-off button here, and we will just tap it to turn our player on. So we will just tap.
Player on. Press any button to learn about its function.
Okay, we just heard our device or our player announce that our player's on, and we also heard that we're able to press any of our buttons to learn about their functions. Now, that is a really great feature, and this feature is only available when we don't have a cartridge inserted. So if we ever get confused or forget the functions that any of our buttons perform, we can just remove our cartridge and press our buttons just to see what they do. And so that's really great. Okay, so now that our device is turned on, how about we insert our cartridge, and we'll do just that. Now remember, we'll have to stop it because our cartridge is going to start playing here. So we'll insert our cartridge.
3. Books.
The Associate by John Grisham.
Okay, and I just pressed our play stop button to stop our book's playback there, and there we go. The player announced that we have 3 books on our cartridge, and of course it started playing the last book that we were listening to. Great, so let's take a look at how to move between books in our bookshelf. All right, we mentioned earlier that our play stop button really serves 2 purposes. Of course, if we just tap it, we're able to play and stop the playback of our book. However, if we press and continue holding it down, we're taken to our player's bookshelf where we're able to navigate between all of the books on our cartridge. So how about we activate our bookshelf? We'll just press and hold down our play stop button. Now the key word here is hold, so we'll do that. Now once we hear our player announce that we've entered our bookshelf, we can then just lift our finger off our player. Okay, so let's just press and hold our play stop button here. So we'll press and hold.
Bookshelf. 3. Books. Book 1.
The Associate.
Great, we're now in our bookshelf. Of course, I lifted my finger, but we're now on our bookshelf, and we heard our player announce several different things. We first heard a beep, and then our player announced bookshelf. So we know for sure that we're in our bookshelf. We were then told that we have 3 books in our bookshelf, and we were also told that we were on our first book. And last but not least, we were given the book's title. Now, this is a lot of really great information, and it might help if we think of our player's bookshelf being laid out just like a real bookshelf. And of course, if we're in a bookshelf, when we move to the right on our shelf, we're going forward through the books on our shelf. And if we move back to the left, we can move backwards through our shelf. So now that we're in our bookshelf here and we want to move forward through our books, we simply just tap our forward or fast forward button here to go forward through our books. And we tap our rewind button to move backwards through our books in our bookshelf. Now, once we find the book in our bookshelf that we're looking for, all we need to do to select it is just tap our play stop button. And it really is as easy as that. Okay, since we're on our first book in our bookshelf, we can't, of course, go back. So how about we just tap our fast forward button to move to our next book, and we will just tap.
2.
Health and Nutrition Newsletters, February 2015.
All right, we heard our player announce 2, which means that we are on our second book. And we were also told our book's title, which in this case is Health and Nutrition Magazine. Now, we could always press our play stop button here if we wanted to listen to this book or this magazine. Or we could tap our rewind button to move back to our first book. But since we have more book or item in our bookshelf, let's just tap our right arrow to move to this last book. So we'll just tap our fast forward button. So we'll do that. Tap.
3. Audio files.
Great. We're on our third book, or in this case, audio files. And our audio files just happen to be music files. So our NLS player is actually capable of playing music if we like, which is a really nice. Okay, so that's how easy it is to open our bookshelf and move left and right between all of our books. Okay, so how about we move back to the first book in our bookshelf and select it, and then we'll check out how to navigate through our book. All right, so we will just tap our rewind button until we find our first book, so we'll just tap here.
2.
Health and Nutrition Newsletters, February 2015.
And there's our magazine. So we'll just tap or rewind one more time.
1,
The Associate.
All right, we heard our player, of course, announce 1. So we know that we're on our first book. And it also said The Associate, which is a title of this book. Okay, so since this is the book that we're looking for, all we need to do is just tap our play stop button here to select it, and it will automatically begin playing our book. So we'll have to stop it there. So let's go ahead and just tap to select this book.
DB 67858. Copyright 2009 by...
Great. And we heard a beep, and our book, of course, started automatically playing, which is exactly what we wanted to happen. Now, like we said, I also pressed our play stop button to stop our playback there, because remember, when we select the book, it's going to automatically begin playing for us. It really is great that our NLS digital player starts playing from exactly where we left off in our book. So that really is great. All right, so now that we have a book open, let's take a look at how easy it is to navigate through our book. Okay, remember that we're able to move by different levels, such as chapters, phrases, or even bookmarks that we've created. And we also know that some of our books will announce these levels at the beginning of the book when it begins reading. And I happen to know that this one does. So how about we just let our book play a bit just to see what this looks like. So we'll just tap our play stop button, and we'll listen for our levels, our markers to be announced. So how about we just tap?
Elfrey Holdings Incorporated. Read by L.J. Ganser. This book contains 373 pages. Approximate reading time, 11 hours, 10 minutes. This book contains markers, allowing direct access to chapters.
All right. We were told right there that this book has markers that allow us to navigate by chapters. And so that could be really handy. So let's move to our navigation keys up here to see how this works. Okay, remember that our 3 navigation keys are located just below our raised speaker and just above our horizontal raised separation line here. And remember, our menu button is in the center of these 3 buttons. Now, each time we tap this menu button, we actually choose a different type of navigation level in which we're able to move through our books. So how about we just tap this to see how it works? And we'll just tap.
front matter, jump,
All right. Now, NLS books called, or National Library Service for the Blind books called, have what is called front matter, which allows us to navigate through all the descriptions at the beginning of the book. Now, we can navigate or jump to our next item by pressing our next button here, which is, of course, just to the right of this menu button. Or we could jump back to our previous item by pressing our previous button. That's, of course, is just to the left of our menu button. Now, if we tap our menu button continuously, or just over and over, it would cycle us through all of our levels of navigation. And when we reach the end of our list, we'll hear a beep, and we'll be placed back to the beginning of our navigation list here. And I guess we could just keep tapping if we wanted to cycle it through everything again. Since we tapped our menu button and we stopped a minute to talk here, when we tap it again, we'll hear it announce front matter again. So we'll just tap it twice to move to our next navigation level. Okay, so how about we do just that? We'll tap a couple of times here. So we'll just tap.
front matter, jump,
And there's our front matter. So we'll tap it again.
phrase, jump,
Great. So now that we have phrases selected in our menu here, navigation menu here, we're now able to move to our next or our previous phrase by using our next and our previous buttons. And so that's pretty great. Now, if we choose to move by phrases, we're roughly moving by a few sentences or maybe just a paragraph at a time. Okay, if we tap our menu button again, we should find our bookmark level navigation here. And of course, since we haven't tapped it in a bit, it'll first announce phrases. So we'll have to tap it twice. Okay, so let's do that. We'll just tap here. So we'll tap.
Phrase, jump.
And there's phrase again. So we'll tap it again, our menu button here.
Bookmark, jump.
All right. Now, since we have bookmarks selected in our menu, we're able to now jump to our next and our previous bookmarks. Okay, now we haven't set up any bookmarks in this book yet. However, this really is a great feature, and it helps us to quickly move to important information that we, of course, is previously bookmarked, and so that's really nice. Okay, it's important to know that our levels of navigation, of course, are going to be a little different depending upon how each one of our books or magazines happen to be marked up. So, like I said, if we're listening to a magazine, for instance, we might find sections or articles listed in our navigation menu instead of chapters or pages, like this one, like if we're listening to this book. All right, so let's tap our menu button a couple of times until we get back to the beginning of our list, and we'll just tap.
Bookmark, jump.
And there's our bookmark, so we'll just tap it again here.
Front matter, jump.
Great, and we heard that beep, and here we are at the beginning of our navigation list here. So how about we do this? How about we tap our next button to move through the front matter of our book, and we're going to be finding the beginning of our book here. All right, so we'll just tap here. So we'll tap our next button.
Library of Congress annotation.
Great, so here we are on our annotation. So how about we tap our next button again here? And so we'll just tap.
1.
Okay, and here we heard 1. Now, I'm assuming that this is our first chapter. So I tell you what, I am just going to tap our navigation menu button again just to see if chapter shows up now as one of our navigation levels, and so we'll just tap our navigation menu button. So we'll just tap
Chapter, jump.
All right, and there it is. Now we know that if we continue pressing our next button here, that we'll simply just move forward through our book by chapters. Now I kind of knew that this would be the case because when we're listening to books from NLS, our front matter navigation level typically turns into our chapter navigation level once we actually enter the first chapter of our book. All right, since we know we're on chapter 1, how about we just tap our play stop button to begin playing here at chapter 1? And we'll just tap our play stop button here. So we'll just tap.
1. The rules of the New Haven Youth League required that each kid play at least 10 minutes in each game. Exceptions were allowed for players who had upset their coaches by skipping practice.
All right, and we just, of course, pressed our play stop button again to stop our book. All right, so that pretty much covers all of the features in our advanced digital talking book player here. You know, it really is a fantastic device. And if we take the time to learn all of its features, it really can be a wonderful tool for reading all of our digital content. Again, my name is Douglas Walker, and I am the Access Technology Instruction Specialist here at Hadley. Take care, and I'll see you next time. For more information on Low Vision Focus at Hadley, visit our website, www.lowvisionfocus.org.